Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's Ron. It is Monday evening, March 10th, a little after 6. So let's see where we want to begin today. Anybody have any questions or comments? Anything you'd like to share? Nothing?
Hey, Ryan. I don't know, or I might know, but going back to creation,
Mhm.
when the when Adam and Eve, well, when Eve and Adam was deceived, they said it was an apple. I'm saying it was spiritual, and everything was done there. So, could you expound on that a little bit more than it being an apple? And they
Well,
use that apple as a metaphor or what?
yeah, I think Charles, we've seemed like every time we look at creation, we see more and more of it. And uh it said it said fruit. It did not say an apple, but I think that's some liberties
Right?
that religion has taken, uh, and everybody just sort of went along with that. Uh, for it to say fruit, it does not mean an apple. Uh, and the creation story anyway is probably, it might be time for us to re-examine that one more time, the Adam and Eve thing and what all of that means. But no, there's nowhere in scripture, there's nowhere that I've ever read or heard that that's what the fruit was. It just called it fruit because it was something that was appealing to the eyes of someone who had a hunger or thirst for something, so it's
Okay.
it's like if you have a lust or something for greed or for pride or for whatever your eyes lock in on is the fruit of all of that's the thing that appeals to you. So that's what that was trying to say anyway. But yeah, that's just something that religion has sort of jumped on and took it in the wrong direction. Would anybody else?
Well, I
I'm sorry, go ahead.
well I hope I hope and so I ain't gonna tell no more than what I'm thinking. I wait till you have to go back to that again and start talking about it, and then I start giving more information on it
Okay.
or, what's in my head.
Yeah, that is not talking about a literal piece of fruit or an apple. But George, do you have something?
No, I was just going to say, in terms of what Charles had mentioned, sometimes when we go back and revisit
Yeah.
things differently now, I think where we were then in terms of our understanding according to how we were taught, but I believe that spiritually, we're in another realm of being able to understand and comprehend. And I think, like you say, sometimes you read it one time, but if you go back and read it again,
Yeah.
get a whole new different perspective of understanding. So I just wanted to, elaborate
You're right.
a bit.
Yeah.
Okay, I just hold off until we
Yeah.
get to go back to it again, cause I
W-
mean, and I kept thinking about a fruit, and it's an apple. I know it's more than that, and that's what they just used to get us off from what it really was.
Well, if you think about it, Charles, we are uh just now beginning to really see things from a spiritual perspective. We've this has been quite a journey, you know. So, and where we are, as much as we have grown and know, uh, there's there's a something in me that almost feels like you don't know anything, and what I mean by that is, uh, once we took a closer look at Jesus and the God that was introduced to us, and we got into Kimmon and looking at things from that perspective and seeing what was real, it kind of left me feeling a little empty. And so, looking at things now, I'm a little more open-minded. I'm a little more, uh, I guess hungry is the word to kind of see where we are, because I'm at times I'm still not sure. I know we're on firm footing, and I feel good about where we are, but some of the things that I believed in that are gone kind of left me wanting a little bit, and that's just me being honest. But I'm glad we are where we are, and those things had to be uprooted.
If it wouldn't, we wouldn't be asking more questions about it real hard
Yeah.
from what was taught.
So
Because I'm feeling in my heart when they're talking about the chosen one, we were the chosen one, we were the black people chosen one. I'm thinking that we were chosen to when they brought him here, and we couldn't do what we were supposed to do because we were just tied in chains. I'm thinking he chose enough to do something on this side that I don't know what it was, but I'm thinking it ain't like black and white. None of that, it don't matter. But I'm thinking that the color matter because we in the change of we in that change of of God.
yeah.
But I'm just thinking we were chosen to do a thing, and we've been turned away from that thing, and it's taking it, and we got to go through and revisit all the words in the Bible and break it down. And the way we have to break it down, we have to have Him helping us to break it down in the Spirit to find out exactly what was said and what did He mean by us coming here.
Yeah. Uh, I totally agree. I think that scripture that talks about who shall we send, I think this day, this time, this season, whatever that we're in right now was ordered a long time ago before any of us was birthed into the earth. Uh, it's kind of hard to see yourself like that. You think, well, why me? How did I? It's not a why me. It's desire. It's desire to see truth and to walk in it, and now that you see more than you've ever seen, you embrace uh, what is in you, and you want to share that with everybody else, not just family, but all of mankind. So I agree with you. As we learn and as we grow, more and more is being added, and the more we understand the scriptures, and as we re-examine them, and but anyway, I feel like I'm rambling now. Anybody else want to add something to this? No? But I promise you, Charles, we are not through creation. We'll look at that plenty of times here in the future. But good
That
question.
worked for me.
Yes, sir. Anyone else? Anybody have anything? Um,
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
yes, sir.
No, I was saying in terms of what Charles was saying, but as we, go back and look at, beginnings, and we talk about, the metaphors, or, looking at um, stories that we were told and stories that we remember. But I think that when we approach it, from the fact that we are, the creators, right? Having a human experience. So what is our thoughts now in terms of what we're creating? And I think something that, makes me give thought to going back to, how we thought about things. I come to realize that, I am the creator, right? Creating
Yeah.
the that are creating the thing. So what is it that we're creating? And we have the power now to be able to, look at it from our spiritual point of view, or our spiritual, experiences, where we know that in our gut, that we can discern, what we might have been taught, you know what I mean? Or discern what we feel we might need to bring up or contribute in terms of the present time, if that makes sense. Um, so I think, having a new mindset, or kind of erasing the tape to a certain
It
extent,
does, George.
we need to consider. I'm done.
I believe that, George.
Yeah,
I
I
believe that
like that.
wholeheartedly.
You're right. Thank you. Anyone else? Questions? I read something, and I saw something on TV the other day, and I went out there and checked a source. My source was saying was how much violence has increased in the world towards women, and of course that disturbed me. And not only violence, but sexual violence has increased tremendously. And in some places, they were saying, some places in Africa, more than 50% uh, increase in sexual violence. And uh, it just got me to thinking, about our meditation, about my meditation, because I'm still, I'm still not real comfortable, or feel like I'm doing it right, maybe, when when it comes to uh, calling on ancestors, being with ancestors. Uh, but I still kind of feel like something's lacking with me. And so that, it's kind of started me searching and looking a little bit. Uh, I was looking at this book. You hear me talk about the spirit of intimacy, and I want to read something from this, if you don't mind. This is talking about what they call ritual. And ritual to me sounds a lot like meditations, or prayer and meditation. Excuse me. Ritual, the purpose of ritual is to call the spirit. And I think it just, when with them, they just say call the spirit. They don't say to call God. They don't say Jehovah. They don't say Ra. They don't do any of that. They just say, the spirit. And so let me read something to you, and maybe talk about it in a little bit. It says it's important in any relationship to do ritual in order to keep peace, to ground ourselves, and to create better communication. There are rituals that help couples to reaffirm their purpose, to give their gifts to the community, and to address difficulties in the lives of others, so that they are not just wrapped up in their own things. In other words, uh they look at their lives and it goes on to talk about they are continuously in ritual. They're continuously calling on the Spirit. They're continuously looking to rid themselves of uh, selfishness and doubt. And they're always seeking to do something better for the community. Uh, they're always looking to increase their intimacy. And that's what got me when we were talking about this yesterday, looking at intimacy. It is a personal thing, and for each and every one of us, it's personal and it's something that we share. Uh, I think one of the things that I like is on this phone there is an intimacy. And when we're all together. Uh, does that continue in your prayer and meditations? Does that continue in your daily lives? So what they're describing, what she describes in this book, is continuously being in ritual, because she's talking about going out of one and into another. And part of ritual for a couple is to go into the ash circle, and nothing is off limits. So you don't withhold anything. If something's on your mind, or even if you have to invite somebody else in, you share what it is that may be causing any type of blockage. But the word intimacy kind of got to me. Uh, because I'm not sure that I'm at that place that I'm intimate every time I meditate or I feel that way. I think of intimacy is sharing something, a part of you that makes you feel vulnerable or makes you feel unguarded, or it is a part of you that you recognize that is sacred and that is special, and it is a space that is horned out for a select few or select group of people, maybe. uh it is a intimacy to me is a soul connection. And so when I look at this and I think about what I read and what they're saying, and she talks about the betterment of the community and how the community to what I read sounds beautiful. They're all one, and everybody's responsibility is to look out for the other one, all to the extent that my wife and I may have a baby, but the baby belongs to the community, and everybody helps raise that child. And that child knows that, grows up knowing that I share a love with everybody here equally. So I think about that when I thought about that as I go into my meditation, because what we have asked, what we have meditated, what we have prayed for, the whole universe is our community. And that may sound a bit overwhelming. I don't think that it is. When you go into your meditative state, uh you can kind of narrow that down and not look at it as being something so big that we can't control. But it just made me feel a, a bit more intimate, I guess, when I think about people losing their lives and whatnot, just because they're females and people are violent against them, or because somebody wants to take their bodies and do what they want with them, and so just it just got me to thinking and looking at how I approach things. And I was just wondering, uh, just want to share it with you guys and see if anybody else has any feeling about that. I hope I wasn't rambling and made sense to you.
No, Ron, I don't think that you were rambling. I think when you speak about intimacy, it's hard, when we were speaking about the word vulnerability,
Yeah.
vulnerable to be able to open up, you know what I mean, to be able to express yourselves. And I think that being, where, you have, your space where you know that you can commune, with the creator or with the ancestors, but at the same time, being able to know that in that inner circle is those that, we can reach out to. And I think that as we continue our journey, there's times that we're on, the call where we're able to, reach out to Pastor or reach out to yourself or Kathy and vice versa in terms of those who
Yeah.
are that know each other. But I think the spirit is being more, we're being more conscious now to know that we're not alone. And I know there's times that you have said that, well, text me or whatever. And I think the spirit is moving in a way that we need to appreciate, to know that we can reach out. You know what I mean? And I think all of us go through different experiences, in terms of what we may encounter during the course of a day. But what I feel so great about is to know that I'm more comfortable now that I can reach out because I hear a voice. You know what I mean? And that voice is one that brings comfort. That voice is one that brings, healing. That voice is one that brings awareness. And I think that this is a part of what, I feel strongly that we're moving into, to know that we can reach out to each other. You know what I mean? In terms of that intimacy to know that we can express ourselves in a way that it would be through how the creator would want us to do it, if that makes sense. But I think that reaching out, is something that we need to, be thoughtful about.
And not be afraid to do it, and not be afraid to share what our thoughts and feelings are, even if you're angry about something, or something displeases you, uh, that we be able to talk it out. She talks about the freedom of the village to express themselves in any situation. Uh, and it just sounds like a beautiful world. It's like we've talked about this in our own way, not the way she does it, of course, but like, for example, I think this person in the scriptures that they call Jesus. Jesus is all of us. Jesus is the 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 part of truth that is visual to other people. So when you present yourself to hear somebody who or to help somebody, that is being the truth, that is being someone who delivers uh, someone to a safe place or to a better place. So we can all be deliverance. We can all be that voice of wisdom. We can all be that listening ear uh, that is needed as we go through our daily walks, and yeah, and intimacy just kind of sticks with me. Uh, it kind of helps me to, if I can stay grounded in that to make it personal, I guess. Anyone else thoughts, comments?
Ron, this is Vermont.
Hey, Vermel.
Hi. When you talk about intimacy, right? And you
Hmm.
said you saw, it became evident to you that we live in a larger community, right?
Yes.
I'm gonna lose my thought. Um, how do you stay grounded in that thought when a event closer to home happens one on one? Are you still seeing that person as, or that event as, a universal event?
Um, that's the magic of this, and maybe magic in the right word. Let me read something, then I'll come back to it. And I want you guys, if you're listening, to help me out with this, okay?
Okay.
It says, what is ritual? It says a ritual is a ceremony in which we are called in spirit to come and be the driver, the overseers of our activities. The element of ritual allows us to connect with the self, the community, and the natural forces around us. In ritual, we call in spirit and show us obstacles that we cannot see because of our limitations as human beings. Rituals help us to remove blocks standing between us and our true spirit. Uh, in the village, everybody's addicted to ritual. There are people experiencing intimacy not just with their partners, but with the rest of the village at all times, simply because the repeated involvement in rituals. Uh, there is such a high from this, and most conversations are not about the rituals that have just ended, but about the need for the next one. So, and I think what I get from what she's saying, Vamil, is we talk about meditation and staying in meditation. The intimacy is recognizing, and this is the part that I saw that I'm lacking. The intimacy is the key part of this, what she calls ritual and what I'm calling meditation, is to see that I am everybody. And even if I can't see put Donald Trump picture in my head, I see me. I see you on this phone, and I see all of us as being one. And that, as what you're saying, is hard because there are some things that are going to happen in us that kind of jolt us a little bit. But again, as George said, that's where we all come in together. And even if we have to call each other and talk to each other, that is a part of what she's calling ritual. If we have to come together. And be truthful for what we are. But when I see you guys and I see my parents, at least, and my grandparents and the people I know, but it goes beyond that. I can see my intimacy, but I can't let it fade when I think about somebody else. So I try to keep my focus on what I know because I'm not strong enough to do it otherwise. I'm limited. But as I grow in this, that will expand because love isn't always a feeling or an emotion. It is what is needed. So that's part of the growth that I think that is needed, at least in what I'm talking about me. And I'm not sure if that helped you, but sometimes we are going to lose focus. That's
That
just part
helped.
of who we are. Yeah.
That helped tremendously. And I can see where, I don't want to say disconnect, but I can see the area that I struggle with. And
Yeah.
that is, even if I don't agree, like you mentioned Trump, there's a lot about him I don't like, I don't understand. And so sometimes it's, no, a lot of times it's hard for me to see him as being connected to us. And I have to remind myself, it's more than what I see with my natural eye. So that really did help. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
And Vermel, I appreciate, what you just stated because again, not looking at it from our natural eye, but to be able to see it spiritually. And if God created us in his image and likeness, we talk about the divinity in terms of who we are. But what separates that is when we begin to look at the soul of the individual, and that's when the individual now is basically uh, being the person that they choose to be by the choices that they make and the things that they do. So again, being able to differentiate between the spirit and then being able to look at the characteristics of the soul of that individual. So I too, like say with yourself, we all are one yet many, in terms of being the spirit beings that we are. But what changes that is when we begin to um, deal with our gut and our soul, in terms of the things that we do. And that's where, like, I too have some, some thoughts about, our president, but at the same time, again, spiritually being able to go back to our own discernment to know that within, we have the power to be able to have discernment. And I think that helps me to be able to, as I say, as we're on the call, is to share, our experiences, strengths, and hope in terms of being able to deal with the truth, versus what may comes across in social media. So I appreciate your comments in terms of what you said and knowing that sometimes we got to go to that sacred place, right? And be able to, commune, with the creator and with our ancestors. I'm done.
That is true, George. I also realize that sometimes I have to stop and think that maybe it's for me to look at myself deeper, be it a coworker, be it a friend, or be it a Trump event. Sometimes I have to stop and say, on a smaller scale, are you doing the exact same thing? Are you being a hypocrite? Is it something you need to look at for yourself? Because I think last week we talked about an event could be that is designed for you to look at you a little more deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful to know thyself and and do that self-examination.
Yes, thank you guys.
Welcome. You
There's
guys,
no different what you were saying about if you looking at the beam in someone else's eye and you ain't paying no attention to your own beam or stick or whatever it says. Is I'm right?
That's what I think, Charles. And sometimes we can't see the small sty that's in our eye compared to something that's been illuminated by the media or something. So sometimes you really have to search down to, okay, why is this being brought to my attention? Why do I feel this way? So I do think of it that way, as the sty in the eye thing.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. That's where the intimacy comes in, being true to self. Can I read something else to you? Can I read another portion?
Sure.
And talk a little bit. Every time you want to move into a ritual, you need to recognize that there's a whole line of ancestors behind you. There's a whole spirit world around you. There is the animal world, the ground world, the trees, and so forth. If you have a way of saying to these forces, come and be with us in such a way that we can feel and do such and such, then you are already in ritual. Next, you must state your purpose. Now, this is in meditation. This is what she's saying they do in their meditations. Next, you must state your purpose, being quite specific about your need or your goal. Spirits are drawn to a place of activity, particular activities that interest them and demand their involvement. All you need to do from then on is to go deep into your heart and listen to the rhythm of it. There is a language spoken to you by the beings you have called into your circle. The problem is we usually don't listen. Uh, what do you guys think of that? I mean, they continuously as well talk about the ancestor. They continuously talk about nature and being grounded, the trees, the water, or anything, animal life. Uh, So what she's saying really isn't new to us. It's just another way of saying it. But for some reason, it kind of touched me in a way. So I just thought I'd share it with you. Any other thoughts or comments on it?
Ron. So what she's saying, if you look at everything correct in creation, I'm saying that like the ants, they always working, they always doing stuff. But the ants does stuff about like we do. They got a colony and we got a colony. They put stuff up and we put stuff up back. They work together. And I ain't gonna say we work together just yet, but we does in the spirit. So the ants does stuff sometimes better than we do. And
Oh. I'm sorry, I
the
interrupted.
what?
Well, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
It's just like the air, the birds, the wild animals and stuff. We connected to them, and they connected to us. And sometimes a wild animal can keep from being hurt or harmed. Or sometimes they'll come to you. You say, "This ain't wild animal come to me." Oh, why? It could be having another animal, or his wife animal, or his baby could be hurt. And he's not biting on you, nothing. He's just pulling on you, trying to get you to fall in. To help him get his animal out, because he's gonna look to man to do it, because another animal can't do it, because he couldn't do it. I'm just saying everything works together. Everything in creation, no matter the little bit ant, it's all connected. But we have to, seek the spirit of how to connect to them.
Yeah, I think that's a great example, Charles. Uh, we call them wild animals, but if we band together, work together, or half as well as some of the animals, especially the ants, are work as one unit. Whatever needs to be done, you have a group of ants that does it for the colony, for the queen. Or I mean, how many people an ant will build a bridge across a water stream uh, of ants just to get the queen across, knowing that they're not going to survive that. But for the betterment of the community, they get her across, get her to safer ground. That's the kind of work ethics. That's the kind of oneness that we are lacking to me, and that we're trying to see now. So there's a lot that we can learn from the animals. Everything is just not just a wild beast out there that has no direction. Man has less direction than the animal world. But
And man made them wild.
yeah, I would agree. We have a lot to do with that.
I like what you read, Ron, because I think it answers a question for me.
Uh-huh.
And you sort of alluded to a little while ago about, ancestors and not exactly understanding or realizing how to sort of be in touch with them. But what you just read answers that question for me. It's because, and I can't put it in exactly the words that you read, but she said that their expectation is that the ancestors are there with them.
Yeah.
And they know that they've always been there and will always be there.
Yes.
But for us, we've never had that
Exactly.
expectation.
Yeah.
So we don't quite fully believe it, I would say.
Yeah, and I'm being honest
And
about it. Yeah.
yeah, and even though I want to, I just need to have more experience with it. So I think what separates us from what she's talking about is the fact that we don't have the expectation that our ancestors are there to help and to guide.
Mhm.
We're learning, but we haven't had that much experience with it, and that's why it feels like sort of nebulous.
Yeah. And we are learning, and we have the desire, and I think that's half the battle. That's the whole battle. Have the desire, and things are happening so rapidly, as Vermeil said, things that kind of throw you off balance sometimes. Uh, but I like the level of intimacy part, because what it tells me is, from a personal thing, my meditation is, uh creator, or God, or Ron, or whoever, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll let you in my room. I'll let you in the most intimate part of my heart, that I can see you, that I can see what I do next. And maybe that's the part that's been lacking in me, because I don't, the part that is wrong, and I think has been a roadblock for me, is individualizing people, seeing this group as this and this group as that. I gotta move to a place where I can see hearts and not the flesh. I can see spirit and not the flesh, because I think that's a roadblock for me. And that's why when we started talking about intimacy and vulnerability and that sort of thing, it kind of hit the mark for me.
Yeah.
I think just like we know that the creator is there, we have to kind of accept that also our ancestors are there
Yeah.
and just let it be.
Yeah, and I think, Audrey, too, in terms of, connecting, with our ancestors, something that we spoke about in the past was, about the cosmic mother when we talk about vibrations and energies. When I was speaking about, the number 13, in the alphabet, the 13th letter in
Mhm.
terms of M, when we talk about communing with our ancestors and even looking at the cosmic mother, there's the M sound. And when I say the M sound, it's like, being able to vibrate where there's a sound that when we say mama, and M is the only sound that your lips are closed, but there's a vibration, there's an energy. And I think in reading it had various names, that relate to the cosmic mother, that relates to how our ancestors were able to travel, during the slavery time, and the songs that they sung, the like I think Pastor was saying, being on the porch and grandma humming.
I mean, yeah,
I,
yeah.
those vibrations and frequencies are one that, again, I can appreciate, when I understand better, when we look at the words that starts with M. And I just want to share a couple of them because I think it again helps me to connect, with our ancestors, where it talks about the importance of mama, and looking at um ma or mutt or even mayat. We talk about mayat, but I think that there's that sound, that when you hear that song, or if it's something that is related to, I think I was listening to the radio today and they was talking about Harriet Tubman in terms of how they were singing songs, Wade of the Water, or singing the songs Go Down Moses. I mean, and that might be something that we look at the being relevant, but it has significant meaning when you can hear the vibration of that one melody, that is that tone, that they say we all have our own tone. You know what I mean? We all
Yeah,
have
yeah.
our own sound. And I think to understand it in terms of our ancestors, to me, it has a lot of validity in terms of being able to understand the importance of, what that vibration mean, if that
I,
resonates. I'm done.
I think that's beautiful, George, because if you think about it, we have come on a journey as far as understanding and being aware of things that they didn't have, as far as looking at the scriptures and even being able to read. But they had the intimacy. They loved each other. They recognized that they were one people, and they loved God. They loved God. And that brought them closer together. And as you said, the vibration of the music and the humming, uh, man, I tell you, they may have been in a higher place than we are now. And we got churches on every corner, but they were a different people as far as their relationship with God and each other, and looking out for people. And it just it wasn't splintered. Even though they lived in different places, they were one. They were one. And that's why the slave masters didn't like them singing, because they recognized these people are one. They're on one accord.
And I think a great example, if I may, Ron, in terms of the intimacy that we have, when I'm in your presence, and we're riding down the highway, Ron, you just have a natural, you know, instinct and flow to be who you are. And when you sing, Ron, and when you hum, I hear you, my brother. You know what I mean? And
Appreciate that. Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
vibration that I'm saying I'm feeling, because I know that it's something in your spirit that have you do what you do, but at the same time, I can feel the energy. You know what I mean? And that harmony is just being able to come together to know that we're humming together, we're
yeah.
singing together. And I think another example is, I don't know if Evelyn is on the call or not, or Kathy's on the call, but I know, it's songs or there's words that I hear them say. And one song in particular was the song by Earth, Wind, and Fire, where it talked about mighty people of the sun.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that particular lyrics, in terms of how music and how words are so powerful, that sometimes we just take it for granted, that we just listen to something. But I think it has much more power now when
yeah.
we can appreciate that we all are in one accord in terms of understanding what that energy is really putting out there, if that makes sense.
It makes perfectly good sense. Oh, yeah, it does. I think as you said, Pastor called me late last night. I was already in bed actually, and told me he wasn't sure if he was going to be on today. And when he does that, it creates a hole in me. Like what? What do you mean you're not going to be on? Because you know, he might call, say, you have a lesson, and I'll say no, or you have a lesson, no. Well, let's see if we have a question, and we go. But if he tells me he's not going to be on, and I haven't had time to look at something, it just kind of kind of throws me off. And I'm thinking, okay, I got to get up in a few hours to go to work. I don't have time to look at anything. But I was still looking forward to the day. Why? Because of the energy. I know when we get on this phone, because of the energy, and somebody might ask one question, and we might not be on for 30 minutes, but that's okay. But that's okay. It's something about everybody here together that energizes me, and makes me know that everything's gonna be all right. So uh as sometimes your world is going okay, and you see something in the news, especially it hurts my heart when I know things are happening to Black people, excuse me, especially women. But the intimacy and desire to change things. And let's face it, uh, the the desires that we have and the oneness that I feel that we have with the universe may be causing a lot of this upheaval, may be causing things to be stirred up to this degree. So, as Pastor has said to us on numerous occasions, this isn't going to last long, and that's what I hold on to. Excuse me. But I love this little book. I think she hasn't said anything that we haven't said. I like her way of saying it, and it just kind of reinforces to me what we're doing. There's a part in here, excuse me. There's a part in here where she talks about going into the ash circle, and she's talking about ash, and that got my attention too, because I want to know more about that, and I've been trying to look at other sources to look at what that looks like. But ash circle, let's say there is someone who has a problem. George and I may had a disagreement, and the community takes us to the ash circle, and you enter in there, and you enter into the ash circle. You don't do it haphazardly, and you don't go in and say, "Well, I'm George's brother. I'm gonna side with George," or "I'm Ron's cousin. I'm gonna side with Ron." No, you sit there and you listen and you get both sides. And not only do you talk about what is best for George and what is best for Ron's relationship, you talk about what's best for the community. And nobody leaves the circle until Ron and George are one again. So, but the ash thing is what got me, because even if you're a married couple, if George and Levon go into the ash circle, there are other married couples that will go in with them to say, okay, if there's something that you guys want to discuss, let's discuss it and let's all become one. We're gonna all become one, and we're gonna all be one community. When we fix this, we fixing everybody. And I love that. But again, the ash, what got my attention was when I was reading David, when his son was dying in the ashes, uh and you know how they mourn and put on the ashes. I wondered if that's related. What other part, what is about ashes that makes sense? One of the Hebrew words for ashes is the same word for dust. So when it talks about man being made from the dust of the earth, what does that have to do with ashes? Is going to the ash circle or going into mourning or into prayer and putting on ashes, is that another way of returning to beginning? Is that what that's symbolic of? I don't know yet.
Well, good
Yes.
afternoon. This is Barbara.
Hey, Barbara.
I can see that. Hi, I can see that. I can see uh, uh, when I think about ashes, a formed image becomes no more, whatever that image is, whether
Yeah.
it's a false image of my seeing myself as bigger than or more than I am, or bigger than somebody else, or better than whatever, or in the example of the couple, if there's a misunderstanding, which can be caused by one person having a certain expectation and idea, which is different from the other person, and the misunderstanding comes when they clash because the other person doesn't see it yet. And so the ash circle to me is okay. Let's burn it all to the ground. In a sense, let's get rid of your idea of what you think this ought to be, and I'll get rid of mine. Now, let's together share and build something together rather than my own separate idea of how something should be, or your own separate idea of what something should be. Because as long as we keep it separate, then we're not connecting, and we're not talking about us being one, being unified.
Mhm.
But when we purposely and intentionally decide, okay, let's just give it up. I'll just give up my idea. You give
Yeah.
up yours, and let's start from scratch. Let's see what we can create from the dust that we both have decided that we're going to just lay aside. Let's see what we can create together. So I think your idea of the ash circle and going back to the beginning, it speaks to that as well. The beginning is when we can do this together from our energetic perspectives, yours from the masculine energetic perspective, mine from the feminine, or it could be mine from the masculine and yours from the feminine, depending on what the issue is. Because again, we all have each one of those energetic potentials in us. So not potentials, but realities within us. So I can see very clearly what you mean by going back to beginning. Thank you.
Thank you.
And-
You cleared that up and made it easier to see. Thank you.
And I think also, Barbara, when you spoke and Ron mentioned about the circle, it made me think about again the symbol of the circle. And the Navajo Indians, they have a ritual that, Western society looks at it as punitive in terms of a way of mediation. But
Mhm.
with the Navajos, they sit in a circle, right? And what they do is they have what they call the elders. The grands sit on a circle, and what it is they have what they talk about. They have a fire that's part of their ritual that they sit around the fire. You know what I mean? But the elders are in a position where they listen. And then what they do is they offer, their spirit, intuition in terms of how to resolve or how to bring healing. And so I would just kind of think of it again in terms of that ash circle, but looking at it in the way that if we look at the beginning and understand, and again, and I don't want to go to the unk, but I can still see it how it all connects,
Yeah.
in terms of being in the center of the circle or being able to let fire be that element. When we talk about, the elements of manifestation, the fire, the water, air, you know what I mean, the earth, but how all of that plays into nature, again, bringing healing to that circle. So it made me just think about rituals that, other um, Native Americans or other our ancestors, or how people
Yeah.
realize
Yeah.
the circle to be powerful. I'm done.
Thank you, George. Yeah, that ties in beautifully with what Barb said. And as we go back in beginning, uh, eh, not so much in our thinking, but in our uh, problem solving or our mindset, maybe, we see things clear. We see them slower, meaning not rushing into things, not being so impulsive, not being so headstrong, or maybe getting frustrated and making wrong decisions. So all of that, I think, plays into what we're talking about here. Uh,
Curious about the preparation for the ash circle, because in order to have ashes, there must have been some type of combustion or igniting of something. So that
yeah,
what is that process that we go through to prepare to go and sit amongst the ashes? Or for those ashes to even be present, I
yeah.
guess is what I'm trying to say, the metaphorical preparation that takes place.
That's a great question, and I don't really have an answer, but I like the question. Uh,
It's
Anybody
almost
want?
like choosing to purge yourself, to uh, to again, Regina, it's an intriguing question because I think it's key to our growth
Yeah.
It's making a decision. You know, we talked about setting the direction of your intent and just being. It's making a decision and letting desire permeate that decision to be the best you can be, to do the best you can be, to know all that you can know. That culminates in what's beneficial for humanity, and not for self. Because again, if it's for humanity, self will get whatever is coming to self. So that's another good reason why it's always good to not talk ill of people, but to always want the best on their behalf. So it's like that purging, or that again, burning away of the chaff in our lives, if you will, those things that are not beneficial, so that what comes forth, what glows forth, what can be seen by others, what can be shared, what makes us vulnerable is that part of us that we've burnt all the dross away, so that we don't have this outside facade that we perpetrate and we give to people, this facade of who we are, we think we are, who we want them to think we are. It is purposefully being vulnerable enough to set that aside and say, I don't want to do that. I want that to be burned away. I want that to be purged from me. I want to be seen for who I really am. I want to be seen for authentically who I am, because when I am seen for who I really am, and I can relate to the universe. It's not all up to me at that point. If I can be authentically who the universe expects me to be, then there's a role that the universe plays in ensuring that I move along on that journey of authenticity. And again, that burning away is letting go of that ego, purging yourself of that ego. And again, I'm not suggesting that ego is bad. I'm just simply saying when we allow it to control us instead of we controlling it.
Yeah.
That's sort of like a sacrifice, if you will, a giving up, a purging away of what's not authentically who we are.
Mm. Beautifully said. Love that. Love that. And that tied everything we talked about together. Regina, did that help?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for the question. Great question. Thank you, Barb.
Ron, question. Does she describe any particular way of how they get the ashes or what they use for it? Or no?
If she does, I haven't gotten there yet. It's one of these books to me you kind of skip around. You know, I don't read it page by page. Maybe I should, but I'll read it and I'll see something that catches my eye and I'll stop and I'll ponder on it and then I move on to something else. But no, she hasn't. I haven't seen that part yet. But yeah, that's a good question. And when I do though, I'll let you guys know. And I've even looked
But
for
just
more. Excuse me. I'm just going to say I've even looked for more books by her because maybe she expounds in other volumes some of the other things. So I only see one other book she's read. I mean, written. Excuse me. But I haven't bought it yet.
Well, I was just thinking that since she said how ritual is so important, I was wondering if there was a particular ritual that went along with how they create that or whatever.
She talked about there's one part in there she said she was talking about rituals and how important they were and they go from one ritual to the next because somebody else may need something. And she made a point of almost saying that they're not distracted by television. She does mention so I take this to mean that it may actually be a village that is not uh cluttered with electric stuff and gadgets and automobiles and that sort of thing is what I gathered by that. But like I say, I'll follow up and see some more. Good question though. Excuse me, was someone else about to speak? Excuse me.
The only thing I was going to add is that just remember, ash circle is maybe part of the ritual, but it gets to the root of what Regina's question was about. What is it behind that? You know, it's metaphorical for something. And the ashes are simply a part of the ritual of remembering what that spiritual underpinning or metaphor is for why the circle and why the ashes, if that resonates.
It does. It does indeed. It does indeed. Good discussion. I hope it makes sense to everybody. Does anybody have a question, anything you need repeating? Repeat it, not repeating. Again, we were talking about our meditations and enhancing and as we move forward and as Barb laid out, this is a growth thing. We talked about the ancestors and knowing that they're there and resting assured that they're there, even though that's not how we were brought up. That's not what religion has taught us. And I guess that's why it's been a little difficult for me. But I do trust it. But that's an important part of this, and the intimacy part of it, the as the burning off of the stuff that is unneeded to make yourself vulnerable. You are love. You are peace and harmony, and that's what you want to offer the world. Those are your gifts. Those are your gifts. And I don't have to see everybody the same. I don't have to embrace everybody as they come across my mind in the same manner. I embrace you, I embrace love, and I embrace harmony. And that from now on is going to be my vision and not focusing on individual people. So that's a part of my burning off of that dross that Barb talked about that is not needed. So again, I hope this has helped. It certainly has helped me. And if you have any questions, uh, please jot them down or text them or whatever. We'll continue talking about it. But I don't want to leave though if anybody have a question or comment. Anybody?
Ron, this is Angela. I do have a question about something else,
Okay.
if I may.
Sure.
Do you think that the ringing, like the ringing of the ears is a spiritual thing? You know how like you hear a ringing in your ear, and most of the time people say, or the doctors say, it's something wrong, but you think that could be on the other hand something spiritual?
Barb, I'm sorry, Angela, I think everything is spiritual. I think everything could be spiritual. Now, ringing of the ears, there are practical reasons for that too, that it could be a symptom of something that you might need to check out. But do I think it's spiritual? Yes, it very well could be. It very well could be a message of some type to you. I can't say that it would be in all cases though. Can somebody else help me out with that? But I think
I would agree. There's some basic medical reasons that you might have with what they call tinnitus, ringing in the ear, which can be approached and solved. But again, I agree with you. The bottom line of everything is that everything is spiritual. Everything the reality is in the spiritual world, and for whatever reason, even when we are ill, I mean, there's a reality that's based in the spiritual world of something that perhaps we're not doing, or something that we need to do, or do in a different way. But everything has a spiritual basis. So I agree with you about that. But there are also some in the physical. There are some physical explanations that can be addressed to improve that as well.
Yes. Thank you, Bart. Did that help, Angela?
It did. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the question. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else? Beautiful night. Thank you, guys. Appreciate everybody, even your thoughts and your energy. I appreciate it. Hope you have a great week, and look forward to being on air again Saturday. Okay. Thanks, y'all. Good evening.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you, everyone.
Good
Good night.
evening.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.